Hello guys and welcome to this video. Here we will explain how we can fit our data into a machine learning model using a Python package called scikit-learn. But before we start, it would be easier if you have the time to watch my previous video where I describe how to download historical data, currencies and prices, how to clean the data, and how to prepare data adding technical indicators into a pandas data frame. This will be used as an input for our model. So our goal is, of course, to have a model that can predict future price trends. Here we have three types of solutions. The first one is either you have the perfect model with 70 to 80% accuracy, and you have to interface it with a bot and start making automatic trading. But let's be real, this one is almost impossible as far as I know. The second option is a good model, less perfect, but still good. The accuracy is around 40 to 50%, and combined with a good strategy, it will also start making money. But such a model is also not easy to achieve, although I wouldn't say impossible, but it's really hard if you intend to use the normal classic machine learning approach. A more realistic model would be to have no more than 35% accuracy, which is harder to combine with an automated bot, but might serve as a custom indicator based on machine learning. You can use it to have an estimate of the trend, but you still need to intervene to make the calls for taking a trade or not. In this video, our target is to predict categories of price trends. We will use a classifier, the k-nearest neighbor. You might as well use a different model that you prefer, for example, the decision tree classifier. But for this video, we will just use the KNN, and we will try to classify our candlesticks in order to estimate what would be the future trend, taking into account, of course, all the technical indicators. And here we might ask the question, why did we choose to predict categories? In fact, it's simply because it's much easier than predicting a future average value using regressors, for example. I've seen a lot of studies showing predictions of the average price in 2 or 3 days. In my opinion, this is way too ambitious for such models. It would be much easier to just be content of classifying the future trend within 2 or 3 days, if it would be an uptrend, downtrend, or simply a no clear trend, meaning the model cannot predict what would be the future trend. And this here honestly is the first trap people tend to fall in, thinking that a machine learning model might be capable of providing them the future average of the price in, let's say, 4 hours or in a day or two. All the results I've seen, all the studies I've seen, they have some flaws at some point, some tricks that are making the results look like as if the model is working properly. In fact, if you look very closely, it's nothing that would be of benefit in return if you start trading using such a model. So how exactly does the k-nearest neighbors work? Imagine you have data with only two features, feature 1 and feature 2. You might, for example, consider these to be the RSI, or the slope of a moving average, and our average true range. Choose any two features of our data. Then let's try to represent each candlestick of our data by a point on this diagram. Candlesticks preceding an uptrend are represented in blue. Then you have the candlesticks preceding a downtrend presented in red. And you have those do not define clear trend that are presented in yellow. Now imagine you have a new candlestick that you would like to assign to one of these three groups in order to try to guess the future trend. If you consider k equal 3, for example, you will take into account the three nearest neighbors to this green point here, our new candlestick. And as it happens, two of those are blue and one is yellow. So you will assign this new candlestick to the group of blue candlesticks, meaning the group of candlesticks after which you have an uptrend. As you can see, it's a model that will depend on your k number. If you specify k equal 5 or 100 or 50, it might not always give you the same result. But this is a normal part of machine learning models. You need to optimize these in order to get the best possible results. So let's start by splitting our input data from the target And first we will be cleaning the rows with no numbers data. So this is done using the drop-in function. And I will define a list called attributes, in which I will be including all the names of my input data. As you might notice here, I've put almost everything without the target because it's not an input. And I also skipped the values of the prices because these are not of use for the model. If the exchange price is 1.1 or 1.2, the opening price and the close price are, let's say, I don't know, 1.2, 1.25. It doesn't mean anything. These are just random numbers for the model. The model is more interested in relative values. For example, I mean, as humans, in fact, if I would tell you the US dollar versus the Swiss franc is, I would say, 1.1 or 1.15, you cannot know what is coming next. But if I tell you the slope of the moving average, for example, is negative, you might tell me, yeah, so probably the trend is going down. And if it's a positive slope, you might say, oh, okay, so the slope is positive, so most probably the price is going up. So we will not include the prices, but rather all the technical indicators that we included and the slopes of these technical indicators that we calculated in the previous video. Then I'm going to split the input data by providing the names of the columns I want to include in the X. And my target will be the Y variable, and it will be only the my target categorical column. Then I'm gonna print the X just to make sure that everything was loaded properly. And of course you can print the Y as well, verify your data. And then we will move to splitting our data into a training set and a test set, or the validation set. This is usually done using the train test split function. You provide your X, the input data, you provide your target, you also specify the percentage of splitting. I mean, if you want 20% of your data to be validation or test set, and 80% will be your training set. So this is why we included the 0.2 here. The random state, you don't have to worry about it for the moment. Whatever you can put, it simply changes the seed of how randomly your rows are chosen. Now, just to be aware of this is not the correct way to do it in our case. Most of the time studies are doing this, and we will be discovering why it shouldn't be done this way later on. The train test split function will start randomly choosing my candlesticks until 80% of my data is selected, and this will be my training set. Then the remaining 20% will be kept as validation data. Of course, these proportions can be changed. You can, for example, instead of 0.2, choose to keep 0.3, and in this case you have 70% of your data training set, and the 30% are the validation set. So for this example, we will go only with 0.2, so 20% of our data is validation set. And now we can start fitting our KNN model. To do this, we have to import the KNeighbors classifier from the sklearn package, and then we define a model variable that will contain our model, and we will use the KNeighbors classifier function, and this function takes more than one parameter. I just put these here for information. You don't have to worry about those for the moment. We'll just focus on the first parameter, which is the number of neighbors you would like to take into account when you have a new point and you want the model to assign this point to a predefined cluster. So I'm going to erase all of these here, all of these parameters. And the reason I put 200 is that I've been trying a bit with different values, and I found out that around 200 I'm getting the best accuracy as a result. So you can actually, this is to be optimized. This is a parameter that you might choose on your own. You can modify it and see the impact on the results. Then I can fit my model using the fit function, and here I have to provide the x_train and the y_train. So these are the 80% of my data, which I call the training set. Then to try if the model is working correctly, if it's fit, we try to predict what we already provided for the model, meaning the x train. Would it give me back something close to the y train? So I'm going to store the result in the y predicted for the training set. And I'm going to do the same for new data, which is the test data set that are not provided for the model. So the model is seeing this x_test for the first time, and it will try to give me an estimation of the predictions regarding the y part, meaning the target, giving us 3 categories of the trends, if it's an uptrend, downtrend, or an unclear trend. Now it's time to do a quick evaluation of our fitting. For this, we will use the accuracy score function. So I'm going to import this function from the sklearnmetrics package. Then I will use this function to compare and to get the accuracy of the y_train and the y predicted train values. And I'm going to do the same, comparing the y_test and the y predicted_test. Now, I should underline here that the y_test is not visible for the model. This is only for verification for our evaluation of the model. The model is only predicting the y_predicted test. And I'm going to print both of these accuracies that would give me an idea about how the model is fitting on my data and how the model is predicting a new data set. So how should I compare my accuracies? Now, if I'm printing these two accuracies, I'm getting 38% and 36.72%. So this looks fine so far. First of all, they are close, so I'm not overfitting my model. I mean, if you have something around 70% here and you have 36% here, you are definitely in the overfitting area, and this should be avoided. Many models, they have tunable parameters where you have to modify these in order to avoid overfitting. It's not the case in here in our example, so we'll just go on. First, let's go ahead and print the counts of each category in the my target column and divide it by the total count of the 3 categories in the column. This way I'll get a percentage of each category in the my target column. Here I have 36%, 36.7%. These are the 0 category, meaning the no clear trend. Then I have the downtrend category, 32.16%, and the uptrend category is the 31.05%. In order to have an effective model, you might think that I should at least have something around 37, 38% and above. So I'm going to compare my accuracy to the highest frequency in my target column. Another way to do this is to use the gambler model, I would say. Imagine you have a trader, has no clue what he's doing, and he's always choosing a random trend. He's saying, oh, okay, so this time my category is 1. It will be a downtrend price. Next time it's going to be 2, and sometimes it's going to be 0. And this guy is doing this completely randomly with a uniform probability. So you can model this actually by using the random choice function, and then check the accuracy of the results. I mean, if you have such a person choosing completely randomly, how many times this person will be right? And in this case, you have 32.88%. You might as well compare your model results to such an accuracy, let's call it the accuracy of a gambler trader. And as you can see, in this case, our model is behaving relatively well. So you have something around 36.72%. And if you would be choosing completely randomly, you would be falling on 32.88%. So it's not really a random model. It's not completely random, but it's not behaving much better, let's say, than a model that chooses always the category 0. In this case, you would have a model with 36.77%. So you might guess that this model will not make us rich overnight, but it's a good start for now. One thing that we should be aware about is that our calculations are a bit random. So since here, for example, we are choosing randomly between 3 different categories in the gambler model, if you run it another time, you will have 34.21%. And if you run one more time, you have 33.29%. So you get the idea. Also, our data is split in a random way. So if you change the seed here, you might get slightly different values down here. It's nothing to panic about, just we have to be aware that it's there, this random component in our calculations. Then for the sake of comparison, I decided to show you the same work done in the X gradient boosting model. It's a more complex model, it's more powerful model than the KNN in this case. And it became famous because of the machine learning competitions on Kaggle and different platforms. Anyway, I decided to show you an example. I'm not going to go into the details here. I just wanted to show you what it would provide as a result. And as you can see here, we got 38.87%. So it's slightly better than our model. And if you compare it to the gambler model, it's way better. If you compare it to the highest frequency category, it's also not bad, actually slightly better. And these 2%, in fact, 2-3% of advantage over a year can give you a good profit in trading. However, and unfortunately, we've just made a big common mistake that I've seen a lot in many studies, even academic studies, published studies, and in many videos and blogs out there. You have to be aware of something. If you consider 80% of your chosen candlesticks here, completely randomly chosen among your data, what you're doing is basically you are taking, let's say this one, let's take this example here, you have this candlestick, and you're taking all the attributes that are coming with the candlestick, like the slope of the moving average, the RSI, and so on. And then at some point in the test data, you have the candlestick that is just next to it and just before it. So these are very similar technical indicators to the one that you have already included in your training data set. So the model will immediately guess that these guys are very similar. They are neighbors to this candlestick. And since the model already has the future trend after this bar, it will immediately append the future trend to these bars. This is not the case in reality. In reality, you already fit your model to a bunch of these candlesticks, but then you have completely new situation. And this is why the way that it should be done is not sampling randomly from all the data. What we should be doing is sampling the data in this way. First, you have to choose 80% of your data, but not randomly. They should be in a real sequence. And then the remaining 20% should come after. So you don't have any random sampling here. You simply take 80% on which the model will be learning, and then you try the predictions on the remaining 20%. And to do this, I will be identifying the index of my data frame that will be separating my 80% and the remaining 20%. And I'm going to use this index to split my data. And then I'm going to try to fit my model, my classifier, my X gradient boost here. And I'm gonna run this and let's check the results in this case. And as you can see, we have 34.8% here. It really dropped from the 38.87% that we had previously. And I'm gonna run our k-nearest neighbor to see where we are after we updated our data. And surprisingly, with the KNN, we are getting 37%, which is better than the X gradient boost in this case. And it's also better than the highest frequency category, which is the 36.7%, also higher than the accuracy of the gambler model, which is 33.53%. So we have a small advantage using the KNN case. Now, is it enough to make money on an automated bot? I'm not so sure, honestly. I didn't do a back testing. You need to couple it with a good strategy. However, it might serve you as a good indicator. I mean, you can use this function here, this model, as an indicator that would give you some signals that are at least 37% accurate. And in this way, you already know the accuracy of your indicator. You don't have to blindly use a classic indicator, technical analysis, whatever. So here you have some stats on your data, on your function, on your model, and you are aware that this indicator will only give you 37%. So as we already said, the KNN performed better than the X gradient boost in this case. However, you have an advantage here if you are using the XJ boost. If you go to features, I mean the functions that are provided with the XJ boost, you have something called plot_importance. And this is very good to plot the importance of each of the features that the model is using. In this case, I did a plot of these importances of the features, and as you can see, the ADR is something you can rely on, at least the model is relying on. You have the slope of the moving average, the slow moving average, 160 bars. Then you have the slope of the moving average of 80 bars. The RSI is good, surprisingly. I don't believe much in the RSI, honestly. Anyway, you have the slope of the moving average 40 also, and you get the idea. I mean, this is very important also. It would give you an idea which of the features you should also be looking at, which of the technical indicators are worth looking at in this case. If you are interested in paying more effort into this kind of development, you might as well go and check about ensembling, because you can ensemble different models of machine learning like the XJ boost and the KNN and maybe other models, and you can combine the results to improve the accuracy of your indicator. Good luck for you, good luck for the trading. I'll stop here for now. I hope you guys found the information helpful and hope to see you next time.